Have you ever looked around your home and thought, how did I end up with so many things I don't even use? We spend decades building, collecting, saving for the family, for the future, for just in case. But no one tells us that after 60, those things we kept for comfort might start to weigh us down instead. In today's gentle, honest video, we're going to walk through two common things many of us still spend money on, but no longer need. Not to judge, not to scold, but to free you with kindness, with clarity, and a few smiles along the way. Because every dollar you stop spending on clutter is a dollar you can spend on peace, health, or maybe even joy. Let me tell you a quick story. A few months ago, my neighbor Carol, 72, bright smile, always baking something delicious, invited me in for tea. As we sat in her cozy kitchen, she sighed and looked toward the corner. There sat a treadmill, buried under coats. Next to it, a cabinet full of gadgets, unopened gift bags, and decorative napkins from 3 holidays ago. She laughed, but then she got quiet. She said, I thought these things would make life easier, but really, they're just noise now. And that's when it hit me. After 60, we're not building a life anymore. We're shaping it, refining it, and that means choosing not what to keep, but what to release. So let's begin. Not with guilt, but with a warm cup of tea, a curious heart, and a shared promise to spend wisely, live simply, and love fully. Let's take a closer look right now. Decorative gadgets, when useful, is just dusty. You know those kitchen drawers full of clever gadgets? The avocado slicer, the pineapple corer, the single-use cherry pitter you saw on late-night TV? At first, they seemed like helpful little tools. A few dollars here, a cute add-on there. But months go by, and they never leave the drawer. My friend June, who's 69 and still makes the best blueberry pie on the block, once showed me a cabinet she called the Museum of Forgotten Tools. Inside, a hot dog toaster, a banana slicer, and something she swore was for peeling mangoes, but hadn't a clue how it worked. She looked at me, smiled gently, and said, if I haven't used it in a year, it's not a tool. It's clutter dressed in optimism. And that's the truth. These gadgets sell us a version of life where we'll suddenly bake more, cook fancy, entertain like we're on television. But most days we reach for the same few trusted tools. A sturdy knife, a good spoon, a pan that doesn't wobble. These decorative gadgets don't just take up space. They whisper false promises. They remind us of a busier, flashier version of life we don't even want anymore. Because peace isn't about more convenience. It's about less noise. You don't clean the house just to make it look good, Mom. You do it so it loves you back. So maybe it's time to open that drawer. Keep the things you actually use. Let go of the rest with a smile and maybe a chuckle. Now, speaking of letting go, let's look at something we often hold on to, not in our kitchen, but in our closets. Because the next thing we need to talk about is furniture that forgot its purpose. Furniture that's just there. There's a chair in my den that no one sits in. It's been there since the early 90s, matched the curtains once, held a few folded blankets. Now, it mostly holds dust and memories. And I know I'm not the only one. My neighbor Carol, who just turned 72, had an entire room she called the parlor. Sounded fancy, until she admitted she hadn't walked in there in over a year. One day she looked around and said, I think I kept this furniture just because I didn't know what else to do with it. The truth is, after 60, wide open space becomes a gift. Not just for aesthetics, for safety, for breathing easier, for dancing when the mood strikes. That extra coffee table you edge around every day, the corner shelf holding nothing but old birthday cards and a dusty plant, they're not helping. They're just standing there. Reminders of rooms we once filled with noise and company. But now we crave a gentler rhythm, a home that doesn't crowd us. You don't need a full room to feel full. Sometimes all you need is space to stretch and peace to feel at home. So take a slow walk through your house. Notice what you actually use and what's just standing there, waiting for purpose it no longer serves. Let it go, not with guilt, but with grace. And as we're talking about the things that outstay their welcome, let's peek under the sink because the next thing quietly stealing space is hiding in shiny spray bottles.
Clothes of the past, when fashion becomes friction. Let me ask you something. How many items in your closet haven't touched your skin in 5 years? I had a navy blue dress, size 6, tucked away in the back. I kept it because once I wore it to a wedding where I danced until midnight, I felt beautiful, alive. But lately, every time I looked at it, I felt pressure. Not nostalgia, like it was whispering, "Why aren't you that size anymore?" And that's not love. That's friction. My dear friend Martha once said, "I kept a drawer full of jeans that hadn't fit since Bush was president. Every time I opened it, it made me feel smaller in the wrong way." Truth is, fashion should serve your life, not your memory. At this stage, comfort isn't laziness, it's wisdom. Stretchy waistbands, breathable cotton, those are blessings. They say, "You've earned ease." You don't dress to shrink into the past, you dress to stand tall in the present. So give yourself permission to let go. Donate the heels that pinch, the blouses that bind, the pants that promise one day. Keep only what you feel good in now. Soft fabrics, favorite colors, clothes that say, "This is me today." And speaking of things that used to fit our lifestyle but no longer serve, let's talk about cookware, because your kitchen might be hiding a few heavy regrets too.
Duplicates and what ifs. Have you ever opened a drawer and found 3 can openers or 2 toasters tucked behind the coffee filters? You're not alone. I once helped my friend Gloria clean out her pantry. We found not 1, not 2, but 4 slow cookers. When I asked why, she chuckled and said, "Well, I kept the old ones just in case the new one broke, and then forgot I had the old ones." That little phrase, "just in case," is sneaky. It sounds harmless, even practical, but when it fills your home with extras you never touch, it stops being helpful. It becomes heavy. Sometimes keeping duplicates isn't about need, it's about fear. Fear of not having enough, of needing something and not being prepared. But here's the quiet truth. You have more than enough already. Letting go of the second one doesn't mean you'll suffer. It means you trust yourself to figure it out. And think about this. The more clutter we clear, the more clarity we gain. One good blender is better than 3 dusty ones. One trusted flashlight is better than a box of "maybe it still works" gadgets. So next time you find yourself holding on to something you haven't used in years, ask gently, "Is this preparing me or just piling up around me?" And if the answer feels freeing, let it go. Now, from duplicates in the kitchen, let's step into another space that often weighs us down without meaning to. The world of books and hobbies we thought we'd love, but never really did. Books, binders, and burdens. The shelves that hold more than paper. To food. I once had a bookshelf that groaned under the weight of memories. Cookbooks I hadn't opened in years. Travel guides from trips I never took. Binders with old paperwork. Seminar notes, clipped out recipes, all carefully labeled and stacked, waiting, as if someday I'd return to each of them. But the truth is, I wasn't preserving knowledge. I was preserving guilt. Guilt for letting them sit. Guilt for not finishing. Guilt for holding on when I knew deep down I didn't need them anymore. See, books and binders are funny things. They can feel like companions, especially for those of us who've always believed that wisdom is worth saving. And it is. But saving everything just in case, that's not wisdom, that's burden. You're not alone if you have shelves lined with titles you no longer remember, or binders full of plans that belong to a version of you that's quietly moved on. We hold on to these things not just for the content, but for the hope they once held. the dream of becoming a gourmet cook, the fantasy of learning French, the idea that we'd organize every recipe into one perfect folder. But hope doesn't live in paper, it lives in presence. And when our shelves get so full we stop seeing what we actually love, we lose more than space. When we lose clarity, here's a little quote that helped me finally let go. You don't clean the house just to make it look good. You do it so it loves you back. So maybe it's time. Time to pull down those dusty binders. Flip through those forgotten cookbooks. Keep only the ones that still spark something real in you. Joy, laughter, memory. Donate the rest to a library, a school, a friend. Let them be useful again, not just shelved weight. And if the thought of letting go feels a little heavy, remind yourself, you're not erasing your past. You're simply making space for the life you actually live now. Now that we've cleared the shelf, let's turn to something even sneakier. The money we lose month after month, hidden in tiny charges and forgotten subscriptions. Let's talk about the little leaks next, and how they drain more than just your wallet. Guilt appliances. From exercise machines to dust magnets, there's a quiet kind of weight that lives in the corners of our homes, not emotional, not financial, but something heavier than both. It's the treadmill you swore you'd use, the stationary bike you bought after watching a health special, that sleek rowing machine with the promise of a new you. They were investments in hope, in change, in better habits, but now they're draped in jackets or buried under boxes. They don't move, but they make us feel stuck. I remember dusting off the elliptical one afternoon and realizing I hadn't touched it in 2 years, not because I didn't care about my health, but because life shifted. I found joy in walks through the park, stretching while listening to music, gardening under the sun. None of that needed a machine. But there the elliptical stood, silent and accusing. These machines often become monuments to guilt. Every time we pass them, we feel a nudge of failure, a reminder of what we didn't do. And that guilt, it's not healthy. It doesn't push us toward action. It quietly drains our joy. Here's something worth remembering. You don't clean the house just to make it look good. You do it so it loves you back. That applies to everything in it. If something doesn't support your daily life, your rhythm, your joy, it doesn't belong in your way. Let go of the guilt appliance. Donate it. Gift it. Reclaim that space. You don't need a $1,000 coat rack. What you do need is freedom to move in your body and in your heart. And speaking of freedom, let's take a look at the other silent culprit of clutter. Subscriptions you forgot you even had. Little leaks that steal more than just money. Fancy tech, fuzzy purpose. There was a time when turning on the TV meant pressing one button. Now, I've got 3 remotes, each with its own confusing logic, and sometimes I still end up watching the wrong channel. The doorbell tells me who's outside, my fridge tries to reorder groceries, and the thermostat has more moods than I do. Somewhere along the way, the gadgets stopped helping and started making me feel a little, well, lost. I remember buying a smart speaker because everyone said it'd change my life. It did, for about a week. Then it started talking back when I wasn't even asking. Once, it reminded me to take a walk while I was already halfway out the door. That's when I realized just because something is fancy doesn't mean it fits your life. We often buy technology with the hope that it'll bring ease, connection, or safety, and some do. But many, they end up in drawers, half used, with cords wrapped around guilt and confusion. Here's a little wisdom I've learned the hard way. If something needs a tutorial to bring peace, maybe it's not meant for your peace. Or, to put it another way, you don't clean the house just to make it look good. You do it so it loves you back. The same goes for your devices. If they're not loving you back, well, let them go. Stick to tech that serves your daily rhythm. A simple phone to call the grandkids, a tablet that lets you read or watch something warm and familiar. That's enough. You're not behind. You're choosing peace over programming. Now, speaking of quiet choices, let's talk about something that often slips through the cracks but chips away at our budget month by month. Little digital leaks we forget we're even paying for.
Kitchen clutter. When tools outweigh meals. There was a time when all I needed to cook dinner was a pot, a wooden spoon, and maybe a bit of butter. My mother, God bless her, could feed 7 kids and 2 tired parents with nothing but one cast iron pan and a pressure cooker that whistled louder than a train. And somehow, dinner always tasted like love. Nowadays, when I open the kitchen cabinet, I'm not sure if I'm in my own home or the set of a cooking show. There's a rice cooker, an air fryer, a smoothie blender, a juicer I used twice in 2017, and something called a spiralizer, still in its box. And the funny thing is, I don't cook more. I cook less. Why? Because just looking at all those gadgets makes me feel tired. It's like I need to earn a certificate just to make soup. The truth is, kitchen clutter sneaks up on us with good intentions. We see a fancy new appliance and think, maybe this will help me eat better, or maybe I'll finally try that recipe I saw on TV. But most of the time, those tools just become quiet little reminders of what we haven't done. They gather dust, crowd our shelves, and take up the kind of space that makes moving around harder, physically and emotionally. And I had a friend, Nancy, who once bought a bread maker. She was so excited. She made exactly 2 loaves. Then one day, she tripped trying to pull it out of the back of the pantry and bruised her hip. That machine hadn't been used in over a year. But it sat there like a heavy, unused promise. Here's the heart of it. A joyful kitchen isn't filled with machines. It's filled with scent, garlic and oil, cinnamon and oatmeal, the smell of toast on a quiet morning. It's not about gadgets. It's about connection. A simple pan, a reliable kettle, and the hands that stir with care. That's the real recipe for peace. You don't clean the house just to make it look good. You do it so it loves you back. And your kitchen? It should love you, not shame you or stress you. So maybe it's time to part with the tools that no longer serve the way you live today. Not out of guilt, but out of grace. Because what you gain, space, clarity, ease, is far more nourishing than a drawer full of cables and crumbs. And speaking of quiet things that sneak into our lives unnoticed, let's talk about the subscriptions and auto renewals we often forget about, but our wallets don't. Celebration clutter. The myth of seasonal magic. I remember when one box of holiday decorations was enough. A few twinkling lights, that handmade wreath Aunt Carol gave us, and maybe a snowman or two, made by the grandkids. Those simple things held so much warmth. But now, it's bins upon bins, pumpkins in September, turkeys in November, reindeer in December. Every season has its stash, each labeled and tucked into closets we barely open. Somewhere along the way, the spirit of celebration got replaced with stuff we think we need to feel festive. I once spent half a day digging through storage to find a Happy Spring banner. When I finally hung it, I was too tired to even enjoy it. That's when I realized the magic isn't in the decor. It's in the laughter around the table, the quiet coffee shared on a chilly morning, the hand that reaches for yours during grace. No amount of glitter can replace that. The hard truth? Celebration clutter doesn't just take up space in our homes. It clutters our time, our energy, even our peace. We hold on to it thinking it will bring joy, but sometimes it only brings dust. You don't clean the house just to make it look good. You do it so it loves you back. So ask yourself, is this plastic Santa making your home feel loved or just full? Letting go doesn't mean losing the moment. It means trusting that joy doesn't come from a box. And as we shift from seasonal clutter to thoughtful simplicity, we also begin to notice another sneaky drain: the tech subscriptions we forgot we even had.
Bulk buys that go bad. There was a time when buying in bulk made perfect sense. a house full of hungry kids, casseroles for potlucks, guests dropping by unannounced. A giant pack of paper towels or a family-sized jar of peanut butter felt like smart planning. But now, that 10-pound bag of rice just stares at me from the pantry like a reminder of who I used to be. And let's not even talk about the 3-pound tub of hummus I forgot about last month. Truth is, our needs change with the seasons of our life. We're not stocking a football team's pantry anymore. We're feeding ourselves, maybe a spouse, maybe a friend or grandchild once in a while. And yet, the habit lingers. Big is still marketed as better. But is it really better if it goes bad before we can enjoy it? Here's what I've learned. Buying just enough is not wasteful. It's wise. It means fresher food, more room in the fridge, and one less thing to feel guilty about when cleaning the pantry. You're not saving money if it ends up in the trash. Sometimes enough is just enough. And once we let go of those overfilled shelves, we start noticing other quiet places where excess hides, even inside the little bottles beneath our sink.
You're not losing stuff. You're reclaiming self. Letting go always sounds like an ending, a goodbye. And for a long time, I believed that too. I thought clearing out the closet meant giving up on the past, on the person I used to be. But then something beautiful happened. Each time I let go of something I didn't need, an old outfit, a dusty gadget, a drawer full of maybe one day, I didn't feel emptier. I felt more like myself. Because the truth is, we're not just tossing out things. We're making room for the life we actually live now. We're saying yes to comfort, to clarity, to space that breathes. We're inviting in peace. You're not cleaning house, you're creating home. One that reflects your present, not your past. So if your heart feels a little heavy as you decide what stays and what goes, remember this: you're not losing, you're returning to the version of you that doesn't need to be surrounded by stuff to feel secure. You're trusting that who you are now is more than enough. And that, dear friend, is not just decluttering. That is healing. That is homecoming.